All right. It is International Women's Day, which I'm turning into International Women's Month, by interviewing different women every day from March 8th to April 8th. The theme for International Women's Day this year is Inspire Inclusion. So in order to inspire some inclusion, I'm only interviewing women who inspire me. So today I'm interviewing someone who's known me my whole entire life. I haven't known her whole life, but she's known me my whole life. This is Kelly. And Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You can introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Leah's sister. There's that. And I have known her whole life, and I'm gonna love her the rest of mine, probably not the rest of hers. That's the way that goes. Yeah, so I'm 15 years older, something like that, 14, 15 years older than she is. So she was my baby. So I got to watch Leah do her girl thing, turn into a strong woman. So I hope I've been a good example of that. So I don't know if you want me to tell you what I'm doing now, or you want to just wait on that.
Yeah. So yeah, we can just dive in and talk a little bit about your background and what you have done. When I was picking the women for this series, I wanted to pick women from different backgrounds, different countries, different ages, who have done different things. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because you have driven a truck, right? You drove a truck for most of your career,
Yes.
and worked for the same company for a really long time, and then have had different jobs with Federal Express, but were ultimately a truck driver. So maybe tell us a little bit about how that happened and what that was like.
Okay, so I did start working for FedEx when I was just to finish college. I had my children, my two oldest children, and at some point I was divorced and I needed a way to make money. And I was with FedEx already just as a package handler. That's not where the money was. Loading airplanes doesn't pay you much. So where the money was in truck driving or in driving. So I became a delivery driver. So a courier. So I was with FedEx for almost 38 years. So I started when I was 20 and I retired when I was almost 58. And so it was a long career. And I think that I lasted that long because I'm really, really stubborn. And I said, I will leave FedEx when I'm good and ready to leave FedEx. Because it's not like people say, oh, you work for FedEx. That's such a fantastic company. Yeah, it's a company, and there were many, many days that I was like, I ain't going back there ever again. I don't like those people. But just like anybody else, you go home crying and you still get up the next day and go back to work and you learn how to make happy. You learn how to get along. You learn how to, so I wasn't miserable. It's not like I stayed in a job where I was miserable for 30 something years. I learned how to make happy, and my life changed over the years and my job changed over the years. And so, yes, I did become, I drove a semi, an 18-wheeler for FedEx, and there was more money in that, and it was a better schedule.
Yeah.
And I was raising children. And, so this was after my youngest child was born, Sierra was born. And so it was a better work-home balance for me. And so I began to do that. There weren't a lot of women truck drivers when I started with FedEx. And so I guess but I just never felt like, I don't know. I just looked at things and said, if you can do it, I can do it. Right. So I didn't know what the difference was on your anatomy that made you a better truck driver. No. I don't think you had to have one of those in your pocket. Okay. So I thought I could
to drive a truck. How strange.
I thought I still would be all right.
Hands, hands.
Brain. But I do think that as a female truck driver, and I'm sure that this is as a female anything, but I've only been a female truck driver, so I can only speak for myself, that being a female truck driver, I couldn't just be as good as the men. I had to be better than them. There's no grace given, and I'm not really even necessarily complaining. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I had to be better. I couldn't ask for help, because if I had asked for help, it wasn't just because I was a person who needed help. Right. I asked for help because I was a woman.
Yeah.
And so if you're a woman truck driver asking for help, then it looks icky, or they look down on you. She can't do it. I couldn't do it. Well, right. So if you're a man and you can't do it, well, you go to your buds and you figure out how to do it. So you can't pull your pin, fine. Somebody helps you pull your pin. I can't pull my pin. By golly, I'm going to figure out how to pull that pin, to release my trailer from my truck. So, so it's almost like you have to be a step better.
Yeah.
And like I said, I guess I should complain about, I guess we should complain about that. Let's complain about
Yeah,
that.
let's
From
do
now
that.
on, let's do
No,
that.
but I do think you're right, because I think it's the, it's the idea of you have to be, you can't just be as good as them. You have to be
No,
better than them, right?
yeah,
And I could never,
yes.
even in my
And
career.
not even for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to be better for me. I'm not talking that I'm like, I've got to be better than all the men. That's not what I mean. Or every other driver here. Not, it wasn't like that. I think they held me to I was held to a different standard.
Yeah.
So you haven't, you know what? You have a wreck as a female driver. Oh my gosh. Yeah. She's a bad female, woman driver.
Women shouldn't be driving a truck anyway.
Right. Right. So those kinds of things, yeah. So,
I think we've talked about this before. Like, I think there's also, like, as a woman, if you work I worked with engineers and with men my whole career as well. And if you have a bad day and spout something up, then you're a bitch, right?
It's got to be PMS. It's got to be something, it has to be, or what? I'm having a bad day.
I'm having a bad day. You're being a jerk, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that always bothered me, because I don't think that there's a comparable term to call a man. Yeah. I can think of some things to call men, but there's not a comparable term to, so that's just such an and you're like, that's such an all-encompassing insult.
Yeah.
That I'm a bitch, or, and there's not anything that compares to that you can call them, and so, sometimes I wanted to, but I'm just saying it's not like every day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every day that's what I was wanting to do, but it's like it's very unequal out there in the real world, and even just backing into a warehouse, backing a 53-foot trailer into a warehouse, by golly, you better hit it the first time.
Yeah.
Because if you got to pull forward and not hit it the first time, somebody's going to say something.
Yeah.
Do you really? I've watched men back trailers up and it took them 45 minutes. I want to knock on their door and ask them if I could do it for them.
You want me to do that for you? I can help.
But get out. Let me put this, but you don't have that, so, and you go into a warehouse and they're like, did you back that? No, I have a chauffeur.
Yeah. I slide over and let the other guy do it. He's in the truck.
I have a guy. A guy. No, and so, so it's like dumb stuff like that you just don't even think about in your daily life, that, why do I want, are they out, are male truck drivers ask that question, did you do that? Did you back that truck up? Nobody asked them.
You really did.
I did it. Me. So I'm not, and like I said, I don't mean to complain, because I had a good career and nobody made me stay at FedEx. It did get to the point at the end that I was staying, and I was expensive for them to have me, and you become almost a liability, because you're expensive. You've been there a long time. You got more medical things. You got more people on your insurance. It's cheaper for them to hire 3 new people than it is to pay you.
Yeah.
So I think, so they're like, it's like they're like, waiting for you to
retire. Please retire.
Could I have your truck when you leave?
Yeah. Also, I'd like that vacation that you keep bidding for.
Yeah. Can I have, when Kelly leaves, we'll finally get spring break.
Right. Not till I leave. Yeah.
Not till I'm gone. So I did vacation, and we would call it vacation. That's what I would call it, because they make you feel so guilty that you've got the seniority to get your vacations and they don't, Well, you always get that. Yeah. Until I leave or die.
This is how this works in this kind of environment.
But, and I would tell them, well, you should have started sooner.
Yeah.
Sorry. You shouldn't have waited so long to start. I'm sorry you're only 24. But I started young too, and I worked my way up. But I was going to leave FedEx when I was ready to leave FedEx. They couldn't make me mad enough to leave at the end. I was going to leave when I was ready. But then so I will tell you that then when I was 57, Sierra was graduating from high school, Rance was retiring, and I was checking out all the numbers and punching in what my retirement would look like, my pensions. And I'm obviously not old enough at that time for Social Security or anything. So I wasn't going to get any higher. And so I thought, well, then why?
Why would I do this anymore?
So I was very fortunate to be able to retire at 58.
Right.
And so that's so fortunate.
And so, obviously for me, like watching you, you obviously, I watched you raise your kids, buy a house on your own, you own that home for a long time. It was an inspiration to me to say, oh, I could buy a house. I could do this, right? She can buy a house. I could buy a house. But I know you like had a home base. You raised your kids all in, in that house, and
And
then
don't resent a single solitary day of that. I don't want anybody to think when I tell you
no,
what I did next that
yeah,
I was like shucking on everybody
yeah.
else. Here,
Bye-bye.
take your stuff
Right.
and get out.
Everybody else.
You know, right.
No, but
Everybody else, take your stuff. Yeah.
right. But then the day came when you said, okay, you and Rand said, hey, we're retiring, and this is what we want to do. So tell everyone what you did, like what
So,
you went
so
about
before, so I'll back it up a little bit, probably 7 years, 5 years before we retired, we had made a decision of what we were going to do. So
yeah,
everything for those last 5 years was based on the fact of what we're going to do when we retire. And what we did was we sold our home. I had owned that home 25 plus years, raised my kids in it. So everything you own is in it. Even the boxes of things that belong to the kids were in it. We got rid of everything. We bought a 36-foot motorhome, and if it doesn't fit in the motorhome, we got rid of it.
right.
And so the kids took their pictures, and Leah took stuff that belonged to our grandmother. I just divided things up amongst the kids, and I said, "Is there anything you want? Christmas ornaments." I mean, you think about the things you have. Everybody has so much stuff, and as things went out the door, we just started giving things away. If somebody said, "I like that," and you're like, "It's yours," you're here. And so, like, bookshelves and things went out the door. It was gone. Same with Rance's tools. We just got rid of that. We have no space. And so we equipped our RV, which we still have personal things on the walls and, around. We have knickknacks and, but then getting, you pare down your clothes to this much space, from your walk-in closet to walk-in closet to this much space. Right. You don't need all that stuff. You have, a pair of tennis shoes, a pair of Crocs, a pair of sandals, it's like you have to tear down, right? Yeah. But there's not one thing, I was talking about this with somebody else, that there's not one thing that I got rid of that I've ever gone back and said, why did I get rid of that? Right. I have never run into that. If there's something I need, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I sure wish I had that sweater that I bought.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't, that was sure a nice coat I used to have. If I need a coat, I get a coat, you just kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm not attached to the things. So we sold our home to Rance's daughter, his oldest daughter, which was really nice because I can still look at my house and my trees and my flowers. So that was good. So Shannon has our house, but, so it's a different life. And so we're in our 5th year now of living full-time in our RV. Every day is not rainbows and butterflies. No. Just in case you wonder, because everybody's like, oh, that's so great. Yay. Like, you get, and they think we're camping. They think we pull up every night and build a campfire. We don't.
Have s'mores every night.
No s'mores every night. No, hot dogs over the fire. That's not how we live. Every day is not like that. Travel days are not like that. But even like right now, we are currently at Cochrane National Park in South Carolina. It's the only national park in South Carolina, and we are living in the forest, the Congaree floodplain forest. We go where we want to go. That's the nice thing. So we have done a lot of travel, filled in a lot of the states that we wanted to go to. So one of the things that's been such an advantage is that we were able to be in the Pacific Northwest when our first granddaughter was born, and we're so close to her, and it's just that relationship has been so good. And I'm so glad they waited and had her after we retired so that I was there. Yeah. Was good of them. And then we've come to the East Coast, as far as you could possibly get from Portland to South Carolina. And we're here because my second son, they had a baby in October. So he's 5 months old. He was 5 months old yesterday. So we've been here this winter near that part of our family, which is just a blessing. Who gets to do that? Be there for the, without moving your whole house, So we move our little house on wheels, and and then now we're heading back to the Pacific Northwest, and we have another baby coming in July. So we're just fortunate, but we can go through New Mexico and see Rance's mother. And, so we see family, we see cousins, we see aunts and uncles, we see people, friends from college days. As we travel, we just sort of like, oh, we'll go through this way. And so it's a good life for us. Yeah. But like I said, it's things, it's a vehicle. It breaks down. Yeah. We still get, we still get sick. COVID still happened to us, just like the rest of the world. It's not like because we were traveling, it didn't happen. As a matter of fact, it's a little worse. Travel and COVID. No.
A little hard, right?
A little hard.
To do, right?
A little hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and and do we get tired of each other sometimes because we're together 24/7? It's, but but you learn, I think that you learn to give each other space, which
Yeah.
you don't have to do that in a house
Right.
necessarily. You
Right.
just go your own way. But here it's a small space, and so he watches TV with headphones so that I can sit next to him and read.
Right.
It's just a lot of things that you just have to adapt. And then people ask us, well, how long will you do this? And I say, till they take our keys away.
Right.
So
So they say, sorry, you can't have this anymore. Right?
you no longer can see. So no, you're
We're
not.
not allowing you to drive it. Right.
Exactly. So when those people that are in charge of keys take our keys away, then we'll be done.
Yeah.
Or if we decide that we don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
So it's really open-ended. We first sort of set a goal of 10 years and we're at 5. We don't see an end necessarily, but who knows what the next 5 years will bring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't have an end necessarily.
Yeah.
But the people that we see that come as visitors, say to Congaree, they'll say, "Oh, you're living everybody's dream," and I'm thinking, "No, we're not. Like, you don't want to do this. Like, you just think you do. Do you like your house?" Because some people.
I think that's what's interesting is there are people. I mean, I think there's a whole community now of sort of van livers and nomads and
And then there's that too, that people think that we pee in a bucket.
Right.
And
like, no, we have
no, we shower and
right.
We have a bed.
It's like anything. It's like you can idealize it and be like, oh, it's amazing. Or you can draw the worst case picture and be like,
yes,
I could never do that. Well, of course you
but
could, right? If you needed to.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so I don't think it's everybody's dream, but then other people do think, oh, that's what we want to do. And I'm like, yeah, you need to research it first.
Get through it. Right?
Think this through.
Well, I mean, we know, like, even for us, like our parents they were going to do the same thing. They bought a fifth wheel. They were going to live in it. That was going to be their thing. They didn't make it.
Parked it and never moved it.
Never moved it. I mean, he didn't even retire. They were going to pay it off those last few years while he worked, and then they were going to live in it and go around. They parked it, never moved it, sold it, and it would have been their marriage would have been over.
I'm not sure they would have given the space.
Yeah, they might have. Somebody would have been thrown out over the Grand Canyon.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we would have missed Dad, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been that sad when he was gone. You can cut this part out, right? No,
yeah, I'll just
edit.
No, but I mean, like people that have an idea of like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. And then
but I'm sure people do the same with you. Like, oh, she's so lucky. She lives all over Europe and it's so great. And
sure.
Not every
Right.
not every day is great. And you still get sick and you still got bills to pay and things still break. And you're not like, with a backpack on your back on the trains going.
Yeah, he's not going hostel to hostel here. I got to take the cat.
Yeah. Right. So, I think people idealize what they're not familiar with. It's a great life. Don't get me wrong. I love what we're doing. If I didn't love it, we'd stop. And there have been times in the 5 years that one or the other of us said, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. I'm done. I'm all done, So you have an exit plan, but we're on the same page. So we're good.
It's similar, like when I left to move to Sweden and I got rid of so much of my stuff. I only brought the cats, my clothes, some books, a few knickknacks, right? I was very, very narrow in what I brought. And
one container full. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I used the quarter of a container, right? And people were like, oh, well, but aren't you gonna miss these things? And like you, I very rarely am like, oh, I used to have a thing for. I used to. I don't do that. While I look for a book and I'm like, I must have gotten.
I got rid of that.
Right. I don't have that book anymore.
I've done that. Yeah.
But I think it's similar. Like, I then moved to Sweden, and then I moved to Berlin, and then I moved to here. And each of those places I've made a home. But I think what's interesting, and this is, I think I always want to call this out, like, if tomorrow I needed to move back to Albuquerque, I know how to do that.
And we do know how, right?
We know how. This stuff will all be sold. I'll take this little bit of artwork off the wall, the books I want, the cats, my clothes, and we'll be back I'll move back to the house in Albuquerque or whatever. Right? But I know I have the courage to do it because I've done it before.
Is the big thing. And I would think that in my career, in my life, even personal decisions, with marriages or whatever, courage is the thing. When you finally reach that place where you're like, well, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if we make this choice? And so you think it through and you sit there by yourself and you think, what's the worst? What's the worst? Okay, I can handle that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that. So if I had tried to be a truck driver and I couldn't pass the truck driving course, what was the worst thing that was going to happen? I still had a job at FedEx. I was a courier.
Right.
So that was the worst,
Yeah.
okay, I would fail. And then I would just go on and reinvent again, So what was the worst thing that's going to happen if we sold our home? There's still things there's so many things in the world. You can
Yeah.
buy so
I
many
mean, you
things.
can always go get an apartment, go buy a house. You can do
Right.
it again,
We
right?
can start again
Yeah.
in a different way. If one
Yeah.
of us were very, very ill, we know how to take care of that. Like we know what we're doing,
Yeah.
and I know that, like making decisions aren't always popular, even with, and our children are all on board. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's happy that we're happy. And I think one of the really good things you can do for your kids is take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But if they say, well, that doesn't seem like a very good idea to move to South Texas and live, so remote with aliens coming across the border, and you don't even know where you're 100 miles, 200 miles from the closest urgent care, and I don't think it's a great idea. And so basically, I'm not asking.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not at a place. I'm not at that place yet.
Yeah.
And maybe we all get to that place, and there are times, I know that that's true, that at some point somebody's going to say, you can't live by
Can't do
yourself
that anymore.
or you can't do this, no, you're not going to go to Texas and live in the oil fields, so they're going to,
Fine.
okay, fine.
Right. Right.
But so I know that's a thing. We're not there yet.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that we're still at a place where we make our decision. We'll be back at this time, but it also has freed us up, like for our kids in Oregon to say, we want you to come, but we would like you to stay the whole year. And they want us to stay through the end of the year. Okay. Because they want us.
Yeah.
So we'll get there in April. The baby will be born in July. We don't got to leave it. We usually leave in August.
Yeah.
And so they were like, could you stay through the winter? And we're like, yes, we could, and so it's not like, we're very flexible. We don't plan years and years out in advance. Like in 2027, this is where we're going to be, it's not like that.
But I also think that's also part of the courage, right? Because I think, I get asked all the time, like, when will you move back to the US? And I say, I don't know. Are you going to make your home in London this week?
I don't know. Right now.
I live here this week, right?
Yeah.
And I think people, they want answers to things sometimes because they don't know how they would handle it if they weren't sure what was going to happen. The truth is they're not.
They're not.
They don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
and if I had retired from FedEx and Rance and I stayed in the house in Rio Rancho, we would still not be sure of 2027.
Exactly. It doesn't change anything, right?
No.
And all you can do is sort of plan what you can plan.
Yeah. But we worked. I mean, like I said, I don't feel sorry for myself. Rance was in construction. He worked hard. It's hard work. I worked. I went to bed at 7:00 every night because I got up at 2. Everybody else was having fun, and I went to bed. And I would have to, shut myself in my room, put my blackout curtains in, and go to sleep because I had to get up and go to work. But I worked for the freedom that I have now.
Yeah.
And so I worked to retire.
Yeah.
I worked to be able to do what we're doing. And so it's not like you're lucky. No, I worked.
This is not, yeah. And that's, I think that's similar, when I quit my job to start a coaching business and people would say, oh, you're very lucky,
wealthy,
privileged. And I was like, no. And my friend Tanya said, remind them, this is not good fortune. This is not luck. This is working every single day since you were 17 to build
here. Yeah.
Right?
Like I said, I missed a lot of stuff, and I did what I did. You know how I lived, but I had to go to bed, and even on the weekends I was tired at 7:00, so that was my life for 30 something years, almost 40 years of my life. And so I feel like, that it's courage. I was courageous enough to stay where I was and have a little bit of vision, to say, I'm going to, what I would like to do is travel.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people say, what I'd like to do is travel, and then they don't travel.
Right.
Right. But they would like to, and so we said we would like to, and then we did. So,
totally.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of,
yeah.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, if you were going to give younger Kelly some advice now from this place in your life, maybe something that would be that others would be like, oh yeah, that's good advice. What would it be?
So I think it would have to do with courage. I think that I was pretty stymied as a young a teenager or even growing up, that I wasn't very brave. I was afraid to think outside of what I was told. In this house, this is how we do it, kind of thing. And then even marrying young, and being like, I've got to do it these ways. Even church, you've got to do it these ways. This is how we do it in this church. This is how we do it in this home, in this marriage. That it's okay not to always fit in. It's okay to say that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so, but it took me a long time to sort of say, okay, they're still going to like me. The people that already love me are still going to love me, even if I make a decision that is so dumb. And I have done some of those. And so even when I've made those dumb decisions, I'm still loved. But you don't know that. So my young self didn't know that if I made decisions, that the people who already that loved me were still going to love me.
Right.
And so I think that's what I would tell me. It's going to be okay when you're 62. They're the people that you really like, they're still there.
Yeah. Well, I think what comes to mind when you say that is like, love doesn't have that. It always had so many conditions.
Yes.
You can only be loved by God if
you and I have the same parents, and so are the same. Not even just parents, church,
that universe ecosystem.
Right. What I'm talking about. That, and I'm sure there's thousands of other people that have the same, you were raised this way, we're even people that, we've always voted Democrat. This family votes Republican. It's hard to break away. It's hard to break away and do something different and think, well, how am I going to tell them?
Yeah.
And, we don't get divorced in this family. Right. Some of us do.
Some of us don't get married.
Right? Some of us don't get married, but we don't do that in this family, So,
I was just going to say that, and that's, that maybe we can close there, but I would say the benefit. So you are giving your younger self that advice, but the benefit of you being 15 years older than me is that I could be braver.
Yes.
I could say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. And Sierra is braver, and Zach is braver,
and Adeline, and so and I think we give courage to those who are in our circle, so like you said, we make Sierra brave, and she's like, I can be strong, I can be smart like Aunt Leah, I can, and then we have Adeline, and we're like, you can do it. Or even, my daughters-in-law, that I can say, you're strong and you're brave, and I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust you, and I'm going to love you, and I don't care what you decide.
Right.
I don't, decision, and so, and when you're in prison, I'm still going to visit you.
I'll still visit you. No, but I think that's the beauty of having had the life you had and living it with authenticity and honesty and transparency, so that I could be braver, so that then Sierra and Sarah could watch me and say, oh, you could do that thing, and
I can do that.
It carries forward, right?
So because Sarah can be a strong mother, she's a strong mother for her daughter.
Yeah.
And then I can sit back and reap the benefits of just being the nana, and so I don't, so I have a strong daughter-in-law, and so I don't have to raise my grandchildren.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of good things, that come through.
Well, and you also have sons who know what it's like to be around strong women. They're not they're not intimidated, but they're also not like, you can't be strong like that. They're gonna be great kids, right?
Right. And so I think that I am glad that my boys saw me work and saw me struggle and saw me try to make decisions and saw me always choose to chase them, always to pursue them, to pursue relationships, and I think that I've seen them pursue relationship. I think that's good, and so I guess that would be what I would say. So
I love it. Well, thank you for letting me interview you for my fancy interviews.
Okay, and I don't know if the rest of your people tell you, but I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Okay.
You're my favorite.
I know. You do.
I love all these other people, but you're my favorite.
I know. I
They
know.
don't win. They can't win.
No,
So
no,
there's no
my,
win.
my spot.
You win the top spot. I mean, there's a little bit of a hierarchy here, but you're at the top. So, but yeah. So thanks for letting me interview you. I know
Okay.
you're like,
Okay.
why do you want to interview me? And I'm like,
I
because
thought
thanks,
you must have ran out of people.
no, but I think there's some inspiration in saying like, hey, you just try stuff, be courageous, give it a shot, and see what
And
happens.
bounce.
And then
Bounce if it doesn't
change.
work.
If it doesn't work, change. So, you're not a tree, move, right?
Right. No roots here. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching, you'll see that there's a little QR code in the corner of the screen where you can make a donation to the Malala Fund. And the Malala Fund helps women and girls get education in kind of places where education is not often available to them, and also helps women and girls get more education in STEM and medicine and legal and things where they want to have really a bigger career and more opportunity. So we're going to donate to the Malala Fund at the end of the month based on what everybody shares. So thank you again, and I'll see everyone in the next video.
Okay. Bye.